Juggernaut.
Hello everybody, how's it going? Doing something a little different today. Unboxings are really popular and it's always cool to see what people have bought and what people have ordered, what new things people are coming out with, what new things people are adding to their collection. I wanted to do something a little different. See, unfortunately I've had to move quite a lot over the last couple of years, and during those moving processes a lot of my video game collection either got damaged or got lost, and I've been slowly over the last month or so just sifting through the boxes I've got left, seeing what I can salvage and what I have to basically throw away. It's been quite an emotional journey. I put a few pictures up on my Facebook last month that showed some of the selection of games I had to throw away, like Snatcher, for example, on the Mega CD. That had to go. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, unfortunately was damaged by damp beyond repair. So yeah, I've lost some high value games, some games that are very strong emotional attachments for me personally, and as a result my collection of games has slimmed down somewhat. However, I'm really pleased that not all of it is gone and I've managed to salvage some. So in front of me, you won't be able to see it, but in front of me I have a pile of remnants from 4 boxes that I've had away in storage for the last month that I wanted to sift through, and I thought I may as well sift through it on camera with you guys, talk a bit about what I'm uncovering, and hopefully somebody out there might find it interesting as well as me. So let's get going. Right, so there's no order to this whatsoever. I've just literally got piles of stuff in front of me. So let's start, well, right in front of me. So the first thing off the bat, nothing exciting. Some software for a video camera that I no longer have, so that can be thrown away in the bin. What else have we got? Cybernoid 2: The Revenge for the Commodore 64. It looks like it's seen better days, but the tape itself is still in good condition, so I can reintegrate that into my collection. Unfortunately, it hasn't got the manual with it, but hey ho. Cybernoid 2 was a brilliant game by Hewson. It was a classic on the Amiga. The Amiga version was the one I grew up playing, but Cybernoid 2 on the C64 was a completely different shoot 'em up. It had different levels, different abilities, and in fact most people prefer the C64 version of the game. Really fantastic, great music soundtrack, just wonderful. And I notice on my copy it's still got where I bought it from probably 30 years ago. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it says supplied by Grutz in Guernsey. Now Grutz was a video game store here, a local video game store. We didn't have many of them. It was either Grutz, Microgames or Guernsey Computers. We're talking in the mid-80s. And Grutz was in our high street. It's now been overtaken by a photography shop called Jessop's, which is a chain that a lot of people in the UK are familiar with. However, back when I knew it, it was a photography store on the ground floor, and then you'd go up the stairs and you'd have video games, and it was all mostly computer games, not console games, but computer games, cassette tapes of 8-bit games, floppy disk of 16-bit games, and I have many a fond memory sifting through the bargain bins and picking out classics like Cybernoid 2. So that is going to go in the salvage pile behind me there. What's next? Oh, here we go. Some sealed Dreamcast games. Now these seem to have survived miraculously in one piece. For those of you in the States, the Dreamcast here in the UK had these special boxes. They're custom cases, and they were brittle as anything. They were awful. They would fall apart even with you know, breathing on it. Basically, they were disastrous to keep, and you couldn't really get spares. They were very difficult to get spares. So the only way that I got spare cases was to pick up all the cheap copies of Choo Choo Rocket that came with Dreamcasts, and basically just buy all of the games and use those cases for spares. But this seems intact. The seals are all in, so that looks like it's survived. So Slave Zero was a great mech style action shoot 'em up. I also had the American version of this, and I really enjoyed it. You could smash cars, I remember quite vividly, crush anything beneath your feet. It had a multiplayer mode in there that you could use online play for. And yeah, really good fun. Another one of my sealed Dreamcast games, and let's have a quick look at the seal. It's got a crack in the back of the case, but it's not too bad. The Next Tetris. And again, as you can see, it's still sealed. Somehow that survived 2 floods, damps, and a fire, and it's still in one piece. How lucky is that? The Next Tetris is basically Tetris. I don't need to go into much detail on that. But what I may need to go into detail in is this game, Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare. One of my personal favourite games in the Alone in the Dark series, and one of my favourite survival horror games in general. Now, it looks like this one hasn't quite been so lucky. This one, part of the seal's been torn away on the back, and there's a great big crack that's running through the middle of the case, and the discs appear to be loose inside, so I may unseal this one later on. But Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare was really clever. It utilised light as a weapon, way before Alan Wake did it on the 360. There were some enemies that you just couldn't see until you shone your light on them. It's all pre-rendered backgrounds with 3D polygons on the top. Excellently put together, really well done. It never got the praise it deserved, and I think if you ever get the chance to pick this up cheap, either on PC, PlayStation 1 or Dreamcast, by all means go for it. Really good game. Speaking of really good games, Road Rash for the 3DO has survived, and I am so pleased it has. Everything looks good in there. Almost looks good as new, really. Sorry, excuse me. Road Rash on the 3DO was probably the best game for the 3DO. Certainly one of the best for the 3DO. You essentially ride motorbike races throughout different states in America, and the idea is to win races any way you can. Whether that's punch someone in the face, whether that's, you know, swing your bat, whether that's, you know, kick someone off their bike. Yeah. And you also have police chases, you've got oncoming traffic, you've got pedestrians to look out for. It's a fantastic game with an awesome soundtrack and a really cool stylized visual aesthetic. Road Rash is awesome, and I'm so glad it survived. Now, I've got a couple of VMUs. Now, I'm not going to plug them into my Dreamcast yet, because there's no way I'm plugging anything this dirty and this untested into my glorious Dreamcast. But I've got a selection of VMUs here. Mostly official. I have one still with the tag in the back. I don't think that battery is good to use anymore though. But yeah, I've written a couple of things on the back. I've got Adventure number 1, Fighting 1, Racing 1. See, the thing is, when you've got a complete Dreamcast collection, you need a lot of VMUs to store your game saves on. So I've found, how many have we got so far? 2, 4, 6, 8 VMUs. So 9 VMUs, because I can see one on another pile. So I've got 9 VMUs at the moment. I've probably got at least triple that somewhere. But I need to clean the contacts of these and make sure that they all work after cleaning.
So the VMUs are awesome little devices. Let me get one. So the VMU, you have to excuse the dirt, as I say, this has been put in storage after surviving floods. The VMUs were memory cards. These were the Dreamcast equivalent of the memory card, except you could download mini games onto them and play them with the little direction pad and action buttons. This was mostly for virtual pet style games, but there were a couple of action games. There was a Space Invaders type one. Power Stone had some really fun mini games that you could use. And while playing the game, you could plug this into your Dreamcast, so it would sit into the controller. And as you can see, you've got the screen there. Data based around the game you're playing would be shown on that screen. So, say for example, Illbleed, for example, was a horror game, and you would see your heartbeat show up on the screen, so it would give you an indication of how much health you had while playing. Really good innovation. I am surprised that nobody else tried to do it. I'm guessing cost was prohibitive, but what a fantastic idea, and it left really unique kind of experiences on the Dreamcast. That's one of the reasons why I love the system so much. Innovation out the yin yang. It was absolutely bloody great. Okay, so next, Uni Rally for the Super Nintendo. Yes, what a game this is. It's an unsung hero in my opinion, made by Rare, the guys who did Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, GoldenEye of course, made this game. This game is definitely obscure, but I put it in my top 50 Super Nintendo games of all time, purely because it's pure adrenaline. You race from A to B, either in a circuit-based race or in a point-to-point race, and the idea is to outspeed your opponents. You can increase your speed by doing stunts throughout these windy, twisty landscapes. And it was silky smooth. It was 60 frames per second, well 50 in this case, it's a PAL version. 50 frames per second gameplay. You had a whole myriad of tricks that you could learn and combine to make new tricks. The level layouts were fantastic. The visual design was pre-rendered sprites which looked really good for the time. I can't recommend you picking up Uni Rally enough. It's also known as Uni Racers in the US, so buy it. One I can't really recommend though, GT Advance. Sorry, excuse me. This was a very early Game Boy Advance game. I think it may have been a launch title, and it showed. It really did. The sprites for the car was basically slapped on a Mode 7 style course. You could obviously tell that the car had no kind of semblance to the course whatsoever. The course rotated around the sprite, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right at all. So I wasn't a big fan of GT Advance at all. But I've heard a lot of people are a big fan of Kirby's Pinball Land for the Game Boy. Now I put it on my honourable mentions list because personally I prefer Pinball Revenge of the Gator. However, I got a massive amount of comments saying, "No, why isn't Kirby's Pinball Land on the list?" And I can kind of understand where they're coming from. It is a very fun game. It's just I preferred Revenge of the Gator. I only had a set amount of places to put in my top 50 for the Game Boy, so Kirby's Pinball Man didn't make the cut. However, if you're a fan of pinball or if you're a fan of Kirby, I heartily recommend you check that game out. Let me put it down somewhere safe. Okay. Now this one was a bit of a buyer's remorse game. Now, I don't know if you can read the writing on that, but it's Hamtaro 3 for the Game Boy Advance. And it is entirely Japanese, and it's an RPG. Utterly useless for me. Utterly useless. Couldn't get on with it at all. Too much work for me to get involved with, so yeah, I wasted my cash on that one, unfortunately. On to another Game Boy Advance game. Denki Blocks. Now, I don't hear much about this game. I don't know if I'm the only person that played it, or whether people played the Game Boy Color version more, but this was a solid platformer. Not a platformer, what am I talking about? This was a solid puzzle game. Very, very good. The idea of the game was that you basically had to make squares and slide same coloured objects into each other so that they'd disappear off screen. Yep, you've heard it a million times before, but this puzzle game is slightly different in the way it's presented, and I got a big kick out of playing it. I really recommend Denki Blocks, whether you buy it on Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance, it's worth having. Now, this is still in the case, so I know this is good to go. Pure Pop. It's Puyo Puyo for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Let's start that again. I know this is going to be fine because it's in its case. This is Pure Pop, which is basically Pure Puyo for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Neo Geo Pocket Color is a wonderful handheld, and it's one of the few handhelds of that era that you could play a puzzle game like this without getting confused about the colours on the screen. Game Boy Color was washed out because it didn't have a backlight, you couldn't really see what was going on. The original Game Boy, seeing the different hues of green and grey, it was very difficult to see, especially as the screen blurred. But the Neo Geo Pocket Color, with its backlight, with its really, really clear LCD screen, made playing puzzle games like this a breeze, and it made any bus journey that you'd need to go on disappear very quick. Really, really good game. Love it. Love the Puyo Puyo series, and that game is no exception. Ooh. Mystery N64 cartridge for game saves. I'll check that out later. And this is another cartridge for the N64. The Interactor cartridge. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a 3.5mm jack on this one. Now, the Interactor was a strange bit of kit. I haven't found the actual unit itself, I've only found this. But the Interactor was a vest that you'd slap onto your back, and it was essentially just a subwoofer speaker, so that every time you got shot in GoldenEye or punched in a fighting game, the bass speaker would vibrate and you'd feel the impact on your body. It was essentially a torture device, and yeah, I bought it thinking it would be super cool. I think I used it twice and never ever again. So this could be the last piece that remains of my Interactor. Yeah, what a disaster. Anyhow, let's move on. Third party N64 memory card with a dial on the top. So this is a 1 meg memory card by Bung Enterprises. For those of you who are familiar with backup devices for retro systems, Bung Enterprises should be a name that's very familiar to you. They created the infamous Dr. V64, which I own, along with Game Boy Color flash cartridges. They were the industry leaders of home development assisting software. It was a piracy device basically, but they had all of these other accessories that would help you, including this memory card. I would have to open it up and see if it's got a battery in there. It does rattle a little bit, so it may only be EEPROM, I don't know, but I may have to clean that up and take a look. Oh, man down. Oh, another puzzle game for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. We've already had Puyo Pop, and now we've got Puzzle Bobble Mini, which is basically known as Buster Move throughout everywhere except Asia. Bust a Move is a bobble popping match 3 game. You've got a harpoon at the bottom of the screen and you have to bounce bubbles to match the same colours and they'll pop, and anything attached to those bubbles will fall to the floor. The idea is to clear your screen as quickly as possible. This is a very good rendition of the Neo Geo arcade version. It's excellent for on-the-go gaming, and as mentioned before, the Neo Geo Pocket Color was the ideal handheld system to play games like this on. And it was even more ideal to play absolutely freaking incredible games like this on. Now you can't see that because it's a bit blurry, but this is SNK versus Capcom, the match of the millennium, also known as probably one of the greatest handheld fighting games known to mankind. Absolutely incredible. It's got bright, wonderfully stylized big sprites. It's got a good range of characters, it's got a bundle of mini games, the fighting mechanics themselves are wonderful, and that's accentuated by the glory that is the Neo Geo Pocket Color's D-pad. The D-pad on the Neo Geo Pocket Color was a masterpiece. I prefer it to the Super Nintendo, to the NES, to the Genesis Mega Drive one, even to the Sega Saturn D-pad. The Neo Geo Pocket Color's D-pad was glorious, and it made playing this even more enjoyable. Absolutely essential if you have a Neo Geo Pocket Color. If you do not own this game, I should kick you in the ball bag. And if you like your shmups, here's another Neo Geo Pocket game. Cotton. I love the Cotton series. It's a cute shmup with a sense of humour and a fiendish difficulty. You control a witch who wants to basically eat. That's all she wants to do. She wants to eat these creatures. I've forgotten what they're called, but yeah, she wants to eat them. And she gets told that if she collects all of these creatures before eating them and combines them, they'll turn into a gigantic piece of food that Cotton can eat. And she's just almost orgasmic over the idea of that. So she goes on this big journey, and on her little broom she kicks ass across multiple stages, multiple environments, and it's a really good game. It's solid, it's got a very good difficulty curve, the graphics are crisp, clear, and really nice to look at. Cotton on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, much like Cotton on any system that you can grab it for, is definitely worth investing in. Okay, these have seen better days, but I think they will still work due to the nature of the connectors on them. But Virtual Boy. I think we all know the story of the Virtual Boy by now, don't we? It's Nintendo's major fuck up, and I had to have it. I've got a full selection of games somewhere, the full collection. Somebody sent them over from the USA to me many years ago. They were old Blockbuster stock, and when Blockbuster cleared out all of their Virtual Boy stock, they picked these games up and a Virtual Boy unit for something like $15. And I gave them the money plus shipping, and they sent it to me, and I got to enjoy the Virtual Boy for the first time. Here in the UK, the Virtual Boy never got released, so that was the only way to get hold of one, really. And I've just seen out of the corner of my eye another Virtual Boy game, which is Tolero Boxer, which I had a lot of fun with, to be honest. It was essentially Punch-Out with robots in 3D that was very red and very dark, and gave you headaches after playing for about 30 minutes. But those 30 minutes were fun. Tolero Boxer was in the upper tier of Virtual Boy games. Virtual League Baseball, however, is in the lower tier of Virtual Boy games. I think I've played it twice, and I wasn't enamoured with either of those play sessions. I'm not a big baseball person. I don't really like baseball that much.
and this game certainly didn't do anything to sway my opinion. So yeah, it did nothing for me. If you're a baseball nut, I'm sure you'll get some fun out of it. But what I did get fun out of was Red Alarm. That's a really, really good game for the Virtual Boy. Red Alarm is one of the essential purchases for VB. It's essentially Star Fox. Yeah, it's essentially Star Fox in wireframe on a virtual screen, and yeah, it's exactly what you expect. It's a low frame rate, not high intellect, that's wrong, but high intensity game. Worth checking out if you can get a Virtual Boy dirt cheap. It might be worth picking one up just to play that. Okay, now I've got 3 games here and I haven't got a freaking clue what they're called. They are PC Engine cue cards. Now I know this one is an ice shogi game. So shogi is a very popular board game, and there have been multiple versions of shogi for multiple systems. This is a PC Engine version, and yeah, it plays shogi. Yeah, that's all I can say. Shogi is quite fun once you get the hang of it. It may take you a while to decipher the characters on the actual pieces, but it plays a bit of like a mixture between chess and Go. And yeah, I really like shogi, and I picked that up for £1. £1. That was it. £1, which is about $1.40, including shipping. Yeah, so I had to give it a go. This one is quite interesting. It's a horse racing sim. There is a big wall of Japanese text though, so I'm not sure what it's called. I know it's a Namco game, and yeah, that's all I can say about that one. I didn't really pay much attention. I saw the wall of text and it put me off. However, this was quite fun. Again, I don't know the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But that was a fun game, this Namco-based PC Engine game. I had a good time playing that. This was quite difficult. It was a difficult title, but yeah, a lot of fun. Unknown Japanese game for PC Engine. No hints on the back of what it could be either. Oh, here's another U-card. Now, I do know this one. This one is a Hudson Soft and Takara game. It's Volume 8, and it's essentially the Game of Life. It's a video game version of the Game of Life, very heavy on Japanese text, but a lot of it is skippable. You can get a decent game out of that. However, not one of the finest PC Engine games. And this isn't one of the finest Game Boy games. Shadowgate Classic. Shadowgate Classic, actually, to be fair, Shadowgate Classic was kind of cool. There weren't very many games like this on the Game Boy, and to have this kind of adventure in the palm of your hand with very crisp, clear graphics was very nice to have. I'll retract my statement actually. I will say this is one of the better Game Boy games. Not one of the best, possibly, but one of the better. I don't know. Actually, I really like this. The more I think about this, the more I remember how much I enjoyed it. There were a couple of cheap deaths, but that made it all the more rewarding when you made progression through the game. Yeah, Shadowgate Classic. Good game. Good game. Good game. 2 Game Boy Advance games here. Let's talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 first of all. Now, if you'd have told me when the Game Boy Advance first launched that we would see an
isometric, pre-rendered Tony Hawk game that was as good as the PlayStation counterparts, I would have said you were smoking something. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was phenomenal. It took the base core elements of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, boiled them down to its raw roots, and then just built this isometric 3D engine around it, and kept the soundtrack intact. There is a soundtrack, a full soundtrack on this cartridge, and it was really cool. It may not be the most highest fidelity music, but it was there and it was legible, and you could definitely hear what songs were playing, and it just made the experience of playing through the game even cooler. Tekken Advance. Now, I am not a fan of Tekken. I haven't been a fan of Tekken for a long time. Tekken 2 was the last game I really enjoyed out of Tekken, and it went downhill from there for me. Tekken 3 was a visual masterclass, definitely showed technical prowess, visual quality that we hadn't seen before out of the PlayStation. It was leaps and bounds ahead of everything else on the PS1 at the time. However, the gameplay sucked. It was unbalanced, repetitive, and it was a bit of a button masher. I remember once at the game retailer that I worked at, we had just got the import of Tekken 3 from America in, and one of the champions of the UK came into the store because he heard that we had a copy of Tekken 3 for the PlayStation. He'd been practicing on the arcade. He came into the store, I challenged him to a few games, and I beat him not knowing what I was doing, against the number 2 seed in the world and the number 1 UK player in the world. And if you can do that in a fighting game, coming into it raw, then that fighting game is just an unbalanced mess. However, the Game Boy Advance version is much more balanced than its console counterparts were at that time. Tekken Advance reduced the movesets for the characters to fit into the button scheme suitable for a GBA, and essentially just made the game better as a result. Too many cooks spoil the broth, too many moves in Tekken just made it too easy to string infinite combos, and scaling it back actually benefited the game. Tekken Advance is still probably one of the finest Tekken games available, in my opinion. Oh, okay, here's one. Let's get this one out of the way quick. Look! Oh look, it's Super Mario World. It will survive everything. It will survive the apocalypse. That game will be around forever. Everybody knows what Super Mario World's like. I don't need to say a single word about that game, because you already know how fucking awesome it is. And you already know how awesome Wolfenstein is, or you should do. Atari Jaguar version of Wolfenstein is one of the greatest versions of the game also. The Jaguar gets a lot of stick, but Wolfenstein on the Atari Jaguar surpassed its PC original. It surpassed every other console version of the game with the exception of the 3DO version. So this and the 3DO version of Wolfenstein are the greatest ones that money can buy, even to this day. It's a bit damaged and it's a bit squashed. We better open it up and have a look. But it's Final Fantasy IV for the WonderSwan colour. Now, this may be damaged. Nope. Actually, only the plastic's damaged. The actual glue. The actual cartridge. Perfect. Lovely. So I haven't actually gotten around to playing this version of Final Fantasy yet, but I've heard really, really good things about it. The WonderSwan conversions of the other games were spot on, and I would imagine this would be no different. I would imagine that Final Fantasy IV on the WonderSwan colour will be a very fine addition to anybody's WonderSwan library. Oh, we've got a third-party memory card here for the N64. This one's battery-based, and you can tell that because this one's actually got a compartment on the top here, so you can reject the battery and eject the battery without taking the unit apart, which is a pretty cool idea, although it seems like the compartment has seized shut, so I can't show you the inside of that. But hey, it's always good to have another N64 memory card. Couple more Neo Geo Pocket Color games. Sonic Pocket Adventure. Really fun. It takes the handheld strengths and makes a game based around those strengths, and it tries to avoid the deadly trap of handheld platform gaming, which is the death leap. It tries to reduce that as much as possible while still keeping the frame rates up, the graphics beautiful, and the gameplay fast, furious and exciting. Sonic Pocket Adventure is right up there with the best Neo Geo Pocket games. It's definitely a curio for you Sonic fans as well. It never got ported to another system to my knowledge. It's never been part of a Sonic collection. So if you see this out in the wild, by all means please do pick it up. You're going to have a good time. And if you see this game in the wild, then grab it before anybody else gets to it first. Neo Turf Masters, one of the greatest golf games of all time. I'm gonna leave it at that. It absolutely eclipses Mario Golf in my opinion. It absolutely eclipses the original Golf on the NES. It even beats some of the more recent Mario Golfs on the DS, etc. Neo Turf Masters is just pure, unfiltered gameplay. It's a game that I will never grow old of. It's a game I will never part with. It's a game I will always have. And if I did lose this, I would buy another copy in a heartbeat, no matter how much it cost me. Okay, so we're on to a bit of hardware now. And we are scaling back the sands of time with, I don't even know the model number for this. The fuck's a model number? Right. Okay. This is the Sony CMD J5 mobile phone. And this was an innovator back in the day, because this is one of the first mobile phones with a wheel attached on the side that you would use to select. So instead of using a direction key or the buttons here, you could select your files here and click in to actually select. Playing Snake on that was a lot of fun, but there wasn't much else in the way of software. The phone was very bare bones, but the reception was immaculate. And I did quite enjoy having this phone. It was a monochrome screen. It had 3 games built in. I downloaded like 3 extra, but they were hard to get and hard to come by. But yeah, a Sony phone with exceptional reception, exceptional quality, built like a rock. It's not quite Nokia strength, but there's no give in the antenna or anything like that. It was a wonderful phone, and just holding it brings back some fun memories. And this one is another phone that brought me lots of fun memories. Again, I don't know the model number now, I've forgotten it. Let me just take the case off and find out. Yes, so this is the Nokia 7610. This was my first colour mobile phone, and the reason why I got this model in particular was very precise. Basically, this model phone you could hack, and this phone could run N-Gage games. So I couldn't find an N-Gage, and I was rather jealous of some of the titles coming out, like Super Monkey Ball, that were coming out for the Nokia N-Gage. I could never get myself a copy. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, had one of these phones and recommended it to me, and yeah, I never looked back. This was an amazing phone. It had an unconventional button layout, but you got used to it rather quickly, and the amount of great games I experienced on this was incredible. I've got a 1 gig memory card in this. 1 gig back in 2004 when I bought this phone was absolutely freaking huge, and considering most games were mobile phone J2ME titles that were like 32k, maybe 100k each, I had a shed ton of these games on this phone at any given time. There was an Advanced Wars style game that I've forgotten the name of, but I want to play it again quite badly. So I may have to power this up, get the names down, maybe record some footage to put on a future video. Yeah, this was a hell of a phone. It's also the first phone I had with a built-in camera. Yes, it had a 1 megapixel camera, which was incredible at the time. Whoa, look at that big old ass lens there. That was state of the art when I got this phone. Yeah. And it was quite compact. The battery lasted for eons and eons and eons. The sound was amazing. I couldn't ask for a better phone. I used this for several years until I got a Windows phone and then moved on to iPhone. But that was a very good piece of kit indeed. And it looks like it will have survived the Holocaust. And it will definitely survive me dropping it just like I did then. Right. So we've got a couple of NES games from the look of it here. Oh no, it's not all NES games. Right, we've got SNK cards, instruction cards. These came with an ASCII PlayStation controller, and it was an SNK versus Capcom controller, and it would come included with these kind of hint cards for the SNK versus Capcom game. So it had one for every character. The SNK version of the controller had Capcom characters in it, and the Capcom version of the controller had SNK characters with it. Really nicely drawn, very, very cool. Unfortunately, they've suffered a bit of damage. Damp has gotten to it. It's a bit mouldy. It's a bit, yeah. It's a bit fucked, for lack of a better word. But the art's still there. Okay. Out of all the NES games to survive... out of all the NES games to survive without a mark... Days of Thunder. What a pile of shit this was. What a terrible game. Easily one of the worst Nintendo games of all time. It came with my Nintendo. I played it once, found it was garbage, never touched it again. Absolute trash. While it is nice to see it's intact and it's pristine, I don't give a crap. I don't care about that game in the slightest. So, the next one I do care about though. And it looks like it's been a bit squashed and a bit damp ridden. But Donkey Kong Classics is in the house. Yeah, it looks like the box has been damaged. But the original price tag's still on there. £20.99 back in the day. How's the cartridge looking? Oh yeah, everything's pristine right there. That is good to go. So Donkey Kong Classics is a combination cartridge that had both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. on it. Donkey Kong is one of my favourite arcade games ever. Donkey Kong is one of my favourite NES games ever. Donkey Kong Jr. Meh. It was cheaper getting this package than it was to get the black label Donkey Kong, that's for sure. I'm really happy that that survived, even though the box has been a bit damaged. It's good to see it's in the collection still. And another game that could have survived, well, I wish my arcade version of this survived. It didn't. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first game, has survived in pristine condition. Why couldn't the arcade game do the same? But yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course, was renowned for its excessive difficulty on certain levels, infuriating children the world over, while still thrilling them at the fact that they got to play a Turtles game on their NES. I think that this gets a bad rap, personally. I think Turtles isn't as bad as people say it is. I think that Turtles has its problems, but on the whole it is a rather enjoyable romp. I think the difficulty level's a bit high for its intended audience, but I think young teens and up would really, well, I did. I got a kick out of it. I liked it. So you can take my gamer credentials away from me if you want, but yes, I did enjoy playing Turtles, so soon. Okay. Whew, we barely scratched the surface. I don't know how long this video's been going for, but holy macaroni. We've got a loose disc of Virtual On for the Windows 95 PC. Not for sale, it says, so it's designed for Intel MMX, so I must have got this with my first PC. The disc looks intact. Virtual On is a mech-based combat game, action-oriented. Now I'm glad this survived, I'm a big fan of this game. Police Nauts. Now I've got several copies of this game. This one is the best of version, which is a greatest hits version. The spine card's intact, everything's complete. It's the spiritual follow-up to one of my favourite games of all time, which is Snatcher. One of the few games that Hideo Kojima's made that actually warrants the hype. Police Nauts is absolutely fantastic, and you can download an English translated version of this game for both the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn. Please do, but make sure you buy an original copy as well, just to cover your back legal-wise. And as I've mentioned it before, I can see it in the pile here, it's right at the bottom, but let's dig it out anyway, because you can't talk about Police Nauts without talking about this when it's staring you in the face. So I have Snatcher on the PlayStation here as well. Snatcher, as I say, is one of my favourite games of all time on the Sega Mega CD. The PlayStation version completely revamped the graphics, redid the sound, redid the audio, the speech, but heavily censored the game. So they gimped the game totally with their censorship, which is a great shame because this could have been the definitive version. As it stands, it's still good, but the Mega CD version is the way to go. Either that or the MSX or the original PC-88 versions. I can't fully recommend the PlayStation edition of Snatcher, but I can fully recommend the Mega CD version, which I unfortunately lost in the damage. Depressing. Yeah, I lost my Mega CD copy of Snatcher, and what's more depressing is it wasn't just any copy of Snatcher. I won mine in a magazine
called what was it? Sega Power Mega, I think it was called. Sega Power Mega magazine, and I sent in a whole bunch of cheat codes. And for my work, they thanked me and sent me a copy of Snatcher. So it was very special to me, and it's gone. Yeah, and it still hurts. That one really hurts. So let's move on quickly. Tekken 2, as I say, that was the last Tekken I really enjoyed. It was also the first Tekken that I discovered infinite unblockable combos in, which weren't fixed all the way through to Tekken 6. So you could still use the same unblockable combos in this game all the way through to up until Tekken 6. I don't know if they're in Tekken 7. I haven't tried Tekken 7 yet. Oh. Yeah, this looks dead. This was a sealed PlayStation original called Sandvein, and yeah, this has been crushed. The seal is gone. Let's just get rid of that seal. There's no point in having it anymore when it's that badly damaged. But yeah, Sandvein is a Midas game. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Midas, they released cheap shit on the PlayStation during the PlayStation's later life. Now, this one says, experience intense blasting in this all-action shoot-'em-up, clear dozens of levels against a tight time limit, and use a range of powerful weapons to clear a path through a host of enemies and huge end-of-level bosses. Non-stop gameplay, fantastic 3D graphics, and awesome explosions bring the action to life. Sounds really good. Never played it. Probably not the greatest. But it's here. The disc was loose, and the box is damaged, but it looks like the game is going to be in one piece. So I might get to try that out one day. Maybe on a random select, we might randomly select that one. Oh look, the box has just completely fallen apart in my hand. Oh. Get back in there, you son of a bitch. Right. Oh no. Oh, that hurts. Rockman 4 sealed copy for the PlayStation. It's trashed. The box is damaged. The seal's gone. I'm gutted. See, I have all of the Mega Man Classic games like this for the PlayStation, and they were all sealed. Except for this one now. So, that is a great shame. Yeah. Bollocks. That hurts. That hurts. I paid 40 quid for that, nearly £36.50. And it's destroyed. Hey ho. At least some of these games are surviving. Some, maybe not. See, why couldn't... Oh, this game didn't survive. I was going to say, why couldn't this die a death instead of Rockman? A visit to Sesame Street letters. But that's also damaged. I've just noticed on the label there are scratches and bit rot, so that's dead. That's going in the bin, unfortunately. The Amazing Spider-Man versus the Kingpin for the Mega CD. Not sure what to say about this one. It's really good. I'll give it that. A little bit janky in the visual department, but a lot of fun where it counts. There were some exploration stages, some fighting stages in there. Anyone who's a fan of Spider-Man quite likes this game, thinks it's a reasonable adaptation of the Spider-Man franchise. Not the greatest game for the Mega CD, but not the worst either. Worth looking at if you can get it cheap.
And this is a guilty pleasure of mine. Road Avenger. Your girlfriend gets gunned down in cold blood. You hop in your car for revenge. Across a mental array of levels, everything from going through hotels and through boats and quays to going through caverns and cliff edges, all in all to take out these Mad Max style bad guys. Absolutely intense. It's a Dragon's Lair style quick time event based game. The visuals are of course quite grainy because it's FMV based, and the Mega CD didn't have a massive amount of colours to choose from, so you did get grainy footage. However, the game, even though it's really simplistic, was thoroughly enjoyable. It was thoroughly intense as well, very intense. Road Avenger has some moments there that keep your knuckles white. Even if you're not a fan of these type of games, I would recommend you at least look at Road Avenger and consider it. Fun fact, the Road Avenger car is the same car that you see at the beginning of Double Dragon. Okay, here we go. We're getting to some crap now. Why do these survive? How come the bad games make it? Yeah, these are spotless. Mad Dog McCree for the Philips CDI. It's essentially a gallery shooter. You listen and watch an FMV sequence. Bad guys will come at you from the left and right. You shoot them in a very small time frame. If you hit them, then the video will continue to play. If you miss them, then the video will cut, stop, you'll lose a life, and then you try it again. So you get to know the patterns of the enemies very, very quickly, and the game hasn't got much longevity, but visual speaking, it was a showcase. The video quality on that was exceptional, even if the game quality was very poor. Speaking of poor quality games, Voyeur, basically a soft porn game. You've got this pathetic kind of espionage plot just to basically allow you to look through people's windows and find out information about a case. So speaking of bad video games, Voyeur, it's essentially a soft porn game with a very, very lame plot. The idea is that you're basically looking at this guy who wants to run for presidency of the USA. Your job as a voyeur is to record footage that will incriminate him to stop him from ever running for the presidency. Why couldn't they have done that with Trump, eh? Well, Voyeur was a naff game. The sexy times in it were no good. The gameplay was no good. All in all, Voyeur was a letdown and the waste of a disc. Okay, so we've been running this for a while. We've been running this video for a while, so I'm going to end it soon. So I've got a pile here. I'm going to run through this pile, and I'm going to run through it rather quickly, in less detail than I have been before. So we've got a super card, which is a flash cartridge for the Game Boy Advance. It runs most games pretty well, although some of the newer games run a bit slowly on it. We've got a Game Boy and Game Boy Color flash cartridge by Bung Enterprises again. This is a 64 megabit cartridge that could hold about 20 games. I really appreciated this. You had to program it via parallel port, so I no longer have a parallel port on my computer, but I'm sure I could get a USB flasher to sort that problem out for me. International Tennis Open for the CDI. Excellent graphics, great game, very simplistic, but it definitely looked the part, and it was one of those games that you would show to your mates as to, wow, check this out, look at the future of technology. Yeah, it didn't have much to keep you coming back to it, but you could show it off to your mates for a long time. Monty Python's Invasion from the Planet Skyron. There's no way you can describe this game. So I'll just read off the back. This game is only suitable for people with a very strange sense of humour. In a universe in a billion galaxies and a billion trillion stars and a billion planets, the prettiest of all is planet Earth. To this world came aliens intent on destruction. It was such a horrible prospect that we decided to do something completely different. Yes, and completely different it was. Loads of Monty Python style sketches in this arcade of... Well, it's not really an arcade adventure, it's more of a point and click adventure style game. It's bizarre, it's off the wall, it's indescribable, it's Monty Python through and through, and it has a woman with giant breasts with her nipples covered by sellotape as the front cover. Yeah. Okay. The Seventh Guest, one of the more popular CDI games. The Seventh Guest again was often used as a showcase and a technical masterclass to show you what the future of interactive entertainment would have looked like, judging from somebody in a 1993 perspective. It's got some great puzzles on here. The actual video quality and the 3D was excellently put together. I still think that it's worth playing. Seventh Guest has its charm, even though it has aged absolutely terribly. It's still worth taking a look. And it comes on 2 discs, one for the music and one for the game itself, which is always nice to have. Mad Dog McCree 2, The Lost Gold. Exactly the same as Mad Dog McCree 1. Yeah, it's a shooting gallery. Not much of interest. Batman Returns for the Mega CD. This takes the Sega Genesis Mega Drive version of Batman Returns, which was a bit lackluster, but adds these brand new 3D scaling sprite racing levels, which are absolutely incredible. They're the only part of the game that's really worth playing, to be honest. The racing parts, the bits where you're tearing through Gotham City in the Batmobile or in the Batwing, are wonderful. It's worth picking this game up just to play those parts. The platform sections, yeah, can take them or leave them. It wasn't really for me, but the racing sections were really cool. And the great thing about this game is, in the option screen, you have an option to choose what levels you play. So you could only play the racing parts if you chose, you could play the platform parts if you chose, or you could do the combination of the two. For that, it's well worth checking out. Crunch. Prince Nassim Boxing for the PlayStation. In America, this was re-released as Mike Tyson Boxing. Who remembers Prince Nassim? Prince Nassim Hamid. And I nearly drop it and I panic and shit the bed. But Prince Nassim Hamid for a while was a phenom in boxing world. He was cocky, he was arrogant, and he was winning an awful lot. However, when he did finally lose, he thought he was unbeatable, but nobody's unbeatable. When he did eventually lose, he went off the rails and he didn't really box very much after that. But in his heyday, everyone liked him so much they released a game named after him. The game itself wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. It wasn't at the kind of height of victory boxing, which is, in my opinion, still one of the best boxing games of the early 32-bit era. But it wasn't at the lowest of the lows either. It's got some real-world physics on there, fully endorsed by Nassim himself. Nassim wasn't the easiest of characters to beat in the game either. Apparently during development they wanted to make Nassim Hamid impossible to lose, so you would never be able to beat him. However, they changed their mind at the last minute, just made him very, very difficult to beat. Mr. Dream has nothing on that guy. Next one, Burn Cycle for the CDI. In a rather fetching green and red case, rather unique. And it's got a fat guy wearing a Buddha costume on the front cover. It's very psychedelic in the way it's represented. The box is totally unique. You'll never see a jewel case quite like this one. Even the discs themselves are gold discs. They're not grey, they're gold. Burn Cycle really had great attention to detail. The idea is that you're a data thief and you've stolen information, uploaded it to your brain, and this has a failsafe and it's going to blow up in 2 hours and taking your brain out. So during that time, this virus, this failsafe is eating your brain from the inside out, and you have to deactivate the virus by solving puzzles, by adventure elements, and by shooting elements too, shooting through bad guys. Very well put together, really good early interactive movie. Burn Cycle was also available on PC, and it's probably easier to get hold of that way, but it's definitely worth checking out, especially for the era. It's worth considering. Okay, we're down to a handful of bits now. So we have Hell Knight for the PS1. Hell Knight is a 3D horror adventure by Atlas, and this was before the ESRB took over, so it was only rated a 15 and up by Elspa. I really enjoyed Hell Knight. I thought it was very good indeed. It was worthy of a rival to Silent Hill. Not quite Silent Hill level, but not far off it. Yes. Yes, eh? It's Hell Knight, eh? Okay, right. Okay, so I think that's covered enough for one video. I've still got a pile of stuff here. There's some DVD movies over there, but I've got a whole whack of games here underneath my desk. But this video is probably an hour long as it is, so I'm going to stop it now. If you like this video, then please let me know, and I will upload a second part that shows the rest of the stuff that I've been unboxing today. If you like this series and you find it interesting or therapeutic or sorrowful, if it's bittersweet for you like it is for me, then let me know, and I may consider filming the rest of the stuff I unbox. Yeah, as I say, I've got a pile of stuff down here. Oh, including this. This is worth a bit of money. It's a white label, 90 minutes for Dreamcast. Yeah, 90 minutes football game. That's a pre-production white label copy. Yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff here. I've got a couple of Master System games. Got a couple of 3DO big box games. We can talk about that for a while, if we want to. Yeah, there's a whole host of stuff down there. But I'm going to leave that for another video. Thanks for sitting and watching me. This has been a long one, so I'll bid you adieu. Till next time, bye.